Welcome to the Black Educated Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Makeda Marie, and today's topic is boundaries. And as always, before we get into the tea, let's get into this tea. So I'm actually drinking Oasis Vibe tea. Really good tea, really sweet tea. I love this Oasis Vibe tea. And I'm all about trying to create the vibe right now. So I got the Oasis Vibe tea going. I got my positive vibe incense over here going. I'm trying to, create that whole relaxation, and I'm trying to, just create that mood. Trying to get my mind right, trying to get my mental where it needs to be. So I'm definitely, getting the mood going over here. And so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about boundaries. I've actually started reading this book last year. I'll get to like chapter 2. It was recommended by my therapist last year. And so, and I keep telling her, I'm going to read it. And so I'll get to like chapter 2. And then I'll just get so busy because, just with life. And, I've said a couple of times I want to get back into reading because that is like one of my most favorite hobbies and things to do. And so she recommended this book last year, and yeah, your girl will get to like chapter 2, and then I'll set it down and start doing something else, and then life just kind of gets in the way. And so I recently picked it back up, so I'm past chapter 2 now, so I'm making strides on that. So I'm back reading it again, but it's a really good book, and it's been really beneficial. It's been really helpful, the book, and of course just me, going to therapy. And that intuition where you always kind of know things anyway, especially women. We always know these things. So I've always knew that I lack boundaries. I definitely lack boundaries, and this was confirmation. Me going to therapy was confirmation, and me actually listening to my intuition telling me all these years, yeah, you like boundaries. I think it's finally clicking now, and I realized, like, yeah, okay, I do like boundaries. I struggle with boundaries, and I've, realized that I'm a people pleaser. I would always try to please people. I would always go over and beyond to help people, to support people, and, to show up for people, no matter what they were going through, or, if it was just a life-changing thing, I feel like I had to be there to support people. If it was just something minimal where somebody was selling something and I felt like I needed to just be there and support, I was that person that felt like I needed to support and be there for everybody. So I lack boundaries with saying no. Because I wanted to please everybody. I wanted to make everybody happy. That's what I thought. Crazy me to think that I can make someone happy. That's their job, And it took me years to realize that no matter how much support I give, how much I do for other people, it has nothing to do with me. Because they're responsible for their happiness. But, I figured, I can aid in it. I can support them in their happiness, and no, you can't, so. But either way, but I lack boundaries. And I mentioned this before. I knew that I really lack boundaries when I started my business last year. And the lack of support that I got, and I still felt like I needed to be there for people, to help people. Although these same people were showing me that they didn't support me in that same way. Or, I was only a benefit to them when it came to a certain situation if they needed help, financially or whatever. And so I really knew at that moment that I really lacked boundaries, because I had to take a step back and see that, why am I still reaching out? Why am I still going over and beyond to help this person or make sure they're okay? And I've started my business. They haven't asked me one time how the business is going. They haven't supported in no kind of way. You don't have to financially support someone's business or someone's dream. Actually having a conversation with them. Oh, how's the business going? And, what new ideas have you came up with? And, simple conversations about someone's business or their dreams is a way to support people, It doesn't have to be you purchasing a product. It doesn't have to be financial. There's plenty of ways you can support people and support their dreams. And I saw the lack of support financially and just, conversational wise. And I was like, man, I've been supporting these people for years, and I've been people pleasing, for years, going over and beyond. And I'm like, and I can't even get a conversation on how my business is going. What ideas I've, came up with, what marketing strategies, I have in place, whatever the conversation may be. I couldn't even get these conversations. So I knew at that moment, okay, I'm lacking boundaries here. When I couldn't get the people I've supported for years to support my dreams. And I felt the need to still want to try to support them and be there. I was like, okay, it's time to put up boundaries. And me putting up boundaries was, and thankfully I had at least got to chapter 2 in this book. So I would know what healthy boundaries look like. Because for me, I could just see myself doing something that was totally unhealthy. And that was, for me, it was probably going to be ignoring, these people, or just flat out like they just don't exist no more. That was my way of creating boundaries. And I've done it in the past. I would just flat out ignore someone and act like they didn't exist anymore. And that's not a healthy boundary. So I took a different approach. So, I would distance myself a little bit, but, I would still reach out here and there, and just ask, how are you doing? Just, little minor conversations just to make sure, hey, they're still alive. They're still okay. I have no hard feelings whatsoever. But then it got to the point that even that was starting to get difficult, because it got to the point that I don't even want to necessarily reach out to these individuals anymore. I don't necessarily even want to have conversations with them anymore. And so I think, once I had reached out a couple of times and it felt like I was forcing it, I just kind of left it alone at that. And that was my way of me creating a boundary. It's like, okay, I've reached out. I'm asking them, even though I feel hurt, because here I am, feel like I'm growing in life. Opportunities are, everything is abundantly flowing in my life. And people that I consider to be my friends, and people that I've supported through the years, and people that I felt like I was really close to, just didn't reach out, or, didn't reciprocate. So whatever the case may be. And so I had to just create the boundaries with them. And the boundaries for me was eventually just cutting them off. Just being honest, that was my boundary. Sometimes with family and friends, people that you're really close to, you can create different boundaries. And those boundaries look different for everyone. Those boundaries may be you just having a conversation with that person, saying, okay, I can no longer accept this. And, this is how I feel about something. When you do this, this makes me feel this way. So we need to have a conversation about this so we can work on, taking a different approach from it. So there's different ways you can create boundaries in your life. And with some people, I've had to have those conversations with them. We've done things this way in the past, but although I didn't speak up on it then, it made me feel this type of way then, and it still makes me feel this type of way now. So, let's just sit down and have a conversation about it. And, some people are open to your boundaries. Some people are not going to be open to your boundaries. And as I've said before in the past, the people that are not open to your boundaries and, willing to accept your boundaries and be respectful and understanding of it are probably those people that you need to eliminate out your life anyways. Let's just be real here. But, I would suggest read the book, or just, find different ways to set boundaries in your life. Some people are doing absolutely amazing with creating boundaries in their life. I still struggle with it from time to time. Because especially when it's a close family member, it's a close friend, sometimes you still struggle with those boundaries. But I'm really, strong on my boundaries right now, because I'm learning to respect my feelings, how I feel about something. I'm learning to respect that, everybody is not meant to be in my life. And when I created those boundaries, the people that were not meant to be in my life, they disappeared. I didn't necessarily have to do a lot. I just created those boundaries, and I kid you not, a lot of them just started to disappear once I created those boundaries. So it wasn't hard at all with certain people. Like I said, it can be difficult with some, really close people. But for some, it wasn't difficult at all. It's like the moment I set up boundaries and I set things in place that I was no longer going to tolerate, they slowly, started to disappear. But, set those boundaries in your life, personal life, especially work life. Sometimes especially if you're salary, you find yourself working 10, 11, 12 hours a day. Set those boundaries. Whatever time you start that morning, do your 8 hours, cut it off. Shut the email off. Just cut it off. Because I was that person. Because I would have my email on my phone, so I'm still checking it after hours. I'm up at 7 in the morning checking emails, responding to emails, and here it is 7 o'clock at night, I'm still responding and checking emails. Set those boundaries. If you can set it in your personal life, you can set it in your professional life as well. Set those boundaries because I have, it still takes time, it still takes practice. But, I'm setting those boundaries. I'm going to continue to set these boundaries in my life. If I want to grow, you have to. I would just love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. And as always, this is the Black Educated Tea Podcast.